Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Simply Cyber Firesides. Let me remove that lower third because ain't nobody got time for that. Hold on, where is it? There it is. What's up, everybody? I am your host, Dr. Gerald Auger, as always, and today I'm super pumped to be diving into practical modern purple teaming with Micheal Small, one of the great practitioners in our industry. The guy knows what he's doing. When you hear him answer about purple teaming and what it means for your organization, you're going to tell this guy has got some time in the saddle because it's a straight based on experience answer, not a textbook answer. You're going to love it. I absolutely promise you. Hopefully you guys are hearing me and seeing me well. Mods, if it's not a hot mess express, let me know in chat. Micheal Small, this guy, he's going to bring... Oh, your mic isn't on? Here we go. Jesus criminy. Hold on. Let's do this. How's that? We're going to start over. Micheal Small, he just got back from vacation, but I think the way that I'm operating would act like I'm on vacation. Guys, listen, I just changed my audio. Let me know how it's going. Micheal Small brings a unique perspective to cybersecurity, having experienced the field from literally every angle. Currently serving as Purple Team Research and Development Lead at Capital One, Mike has walked the complete spectrum of roles from SOC analyst to incident response, malware analysis, penetration testing, and everything in between. The guy is dialed in. As co-founder of Tandem Cyber Solutions and co-host of the C-Suite Cyber Podcast, that's right, so the guy knows what's cracking when it comes to podcasting. Mike combines deep technical expertise with his business acumen. What makes him particularly valuable is his hands-on experience building Purple Team capabilities from the ground up, designing custom exercises that challenge SOC analysts while strengthening organizational security posture. And really, this is at the root of what you're going to get from today's episode. In today's episode, you're going to learn exactly what purple teaming is and how to implement it in an effective way at an organization that actually delivers value versus just saying that we're doing purple teaming. I feel like it was like really hot for a minute there to be like, oh, I'm purple teaming. But in reality, like there's different ways to do purple teaming, and Mike's going to break it down to us. Now, his particular approach to purple teaming, it's not theoretical, right? It's practical, it's tested, it's proven through his research and implementation of custom attack variations that really evaluate and strengthen security infrastructure. And beyond his corporate role, he's dedicated to mentoring the next generation of security professionals and making pen testing more accessible to small businesses, that marginalized group who always gets looked over because they got short budgets and, you know, just like, ain't nobody got time for that. He's a local. He went to Simply CyberCon 2024, which I asked him about and then immediately forgot when we were in the green room. So, like, I guess that's where I'm at. But trust me, he cares about mentoring and about sharing, which is even more reason why you're going to want to watch this interview to get the value that he's imparting upon you. We're going to explore what modern purple teaming actually looks like in practice, and then the real world insights that Mike's discovered along his journey and all the scars that he's acquired. You're going to be able to stand on his shoulders today and level up as a practitioner. Now, as always, this is a live show, as you can tell, because a lot of my intro would have been edited out. And we love community. So I would ask you, if you have a question, don't be shy, drop it in chat. I will get it to Mike. The entire goal of this interview isn't just to have Mike share his experiences with us. It's so you can level up and learn. So if you don't ask the question, you never will get the answer. So be involved, be engaged, share your thoughts, share your questions. As always, I'm super pumped. If you're a squad member, just like I am, drop your Oprah emotes in chat, as I just did. And let me, oh gosh, hold on. And let's welcome into chat my friend and your guest for the day, Micheal Small. Ladies and gentlemen, put it together. Let's go get him. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Hello.
Mike, let me ask you, as a podcaster, how often do you have messed up introductions that you do? Are you live or are you recorded?
We do recording for that very reason. We're still trying to figure things out, and it's all new. It's a whole specialty in its own right.
It really is, yeah. And I apologize. But you know what the cool thing is? When you're messing up, people realize that it's authentic and it's real. And the Simply Cyber community is absolutely super dope. So they are going to be doing it. So let's get into the conversation, Mike. Again, we have so much to cover. You have such a rich experience as a cybersecurity professional and as a entrepreneur and as a mentor. But let's get right to the root of what this conversation is about around purple teaming and practical modern purple teaming. The way that I found Mike was he posted on LinkedIn a really interesting post around purple teaming and what purple teaming is and what it's not. And I thought his novel take on it was inspiring enough that I DM'd him and I was like, "Oh, you got to come on the show." And he's like, "Absolutely." And then we did a virtual high five. So, Mike, can you share? And by the way, shout out to Mike. He's wearing a Black Hills shirt right now. We didn't talk about that in the intro, but that's absolutely a Black Hills shirt all day. Mike, explain to James McQuiggan at 35,000 feet, Stones fan and C.R. Montgomery, if you will, what is purple teaming really all about?
Purple teaming is really all about filling in the gaps between your defensive teams and your offensive teams, and that looks different across every organization because you have different specialties and just different ideas of what cybersecurity is and what a good program looks like. And so that's where we fit in. We try to fill in the gap and provide the expertise and the information that's kind of missing there and the capabilities, really.
Yeah, it 100% is. Now, I mean, do you see, like, say an organization is trying to fill that gap, right? Do you, I feel like only financial services companies in the US government have like dedicated penetration testers, right? So, I mean, can any organization do purple teaming or do they have to have like a SecOps capability and a pen testing capability?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it kind of goes back to the makeup of purple teams. They're not always made up the same. Sometimes you have distinct skill sets. So you may have people from a defensive background that don't have an offensive background, and vice versa. And then sometimes you have where they're both. Like me, my background is all over the place, so I do both. But the idea is that you're capturing these different perspectives to solve problems and find problems that you wouldn't otherwise identify. Um, and to answer your question, you have to have that capability somewhere, or it really doesn't make sense. So you could hire, like, say you have SOC folks or just people on the defensive side, and you bring in an external penetration team. You could almost run it like a purple teaming because it's more about collaboration, right? You're getting these insights, you're talking about the insights, and you're applying them to your organization in a more in-depth way instead of saying, "Hey, give me this pen test report." That's it.
Right.
So let's talk about this. Let's implement stuff. Let's talk about more of the root cause analysis here, not just the surface level. Hey, you have this one missing patch. Well, why is it there? Why wasn't it patched with everything else, or whatever the problem happens to be?
So one of the interesting things to pair on top of this is that your role, your current role, right, includes research and development, which is unusual for most purple teams. Like, how do you balance the time between like conducting exercises and being actively engaged and researching new attack methods and value that you can bring as a purple team member?
Time management.
Okay, well, what's your time management skill, man? I mean, that's actually a really popular question. Is how do you manage your time? Let's break it out away from purple team for a second, and tell us how you manage your time when it comes to this purple team stuff.
Yeah, so really it comes down to priorities, right? And you'll hear this at the enterprise level where it's how do I add value? And what's going to move the lever the most? And that's kind of where you focus your time. Is there this catastrophic vulnerability out there where we need to figure out, are we vulnerable? How bad would it be if it did happen? How do we train our people on identifying this specific attack? Or is it, hey, we need to identify gaps or some other issue? Or is there just some systemic thing that just pops up every year after year, and we just need to figure out how to finally knock it out and what that looks like? So it's all about priorities, where your organization is heading, and where your leadership's mind's at. Because the worst thing you can do as a practitioner anywhere in cybersecurity is focus on something no one cares about. Because
Yeah, right.
you're just losing time. People don't care. You're not going to get the attaboys you need to get the promotions and raises and whatever. So you kind of got to balance that. Yes, it has to matter, but people also have to care, or you have to present a case to make them care. One of the two.
So, as a purple teamer who does R&D, like how does your research feedback into like making purple teams, programs more effective? How do you take that research and theory that you discover and operationalize it?
Yeah, so a lot of times, like the best way to explain how I operationalize it, there we go. I can pronounce words. Uh, is I like to look at maybe there's a new specific attack or a new vulnerability, and I want to reimagine how it could be used in the future or how it may evolve over time. And then I want to apply it to the organization I care about and kind of look at how it may impact it overall. And then typically, it comes down to informing other people how this would look, how they could investigate it, where it may pop up somewhere in the security stack, things like that. But it's really all about not just how it looks like now, but because typically, whenever there's a new exploit, right, we get a simple POC,
Hmm.
probably, but it's very finite. And when you start understanding the just attack chain as a whole and how you can start kind of turning these into little puzzle pieces, because well, let me back up for a second.
Okay.
So like everything is right, everything's a piece of a puzzle when you look at the attack techniques, attack chain as a whole. And so what red teams and really good attackers will do is start kind of mixing and matching techniques, right? And so we need to take the mindset away from it's only going to ever present itself in this single way to how could it evolve in the future? How could other attackers abuse this? And that comes down to really truly understanding the actual technique and what else you can do with it, right? Asking good questions is probably the best advice I can give anyone in cybersecurity. Be inquisitive, ask good questions.
So this is, my own personal inquiry. Like, do you find yourself taking POCs and trying to expand them to make them tools that you can use in purple teams, or do you just use them as inspiration and, kind of simulate whatever it is
Both.
using like, an existing tool or something like Atomic Red Team?
Both. It just depends on the circumstance, what I'm trying to portray. You just adapt, and again, it comes down to what do we care about, what are we trying to do with this thing, and so you just yeah, it just depends, but it could be either.
Okay. Roswell, UK, brings up a good point. Like, you're talking about this POC and all these. Like, is there a particular, without doxing a client or something? I mean, is there even if it's a couple years old, I mean, is there an instance that you can provide that could help, crystallize this in people's minds?
Yeah. Let's talk about could be VPNs. That was a big thing last year. So not super recent, but VPNs are always a huge thing because of the access you get to organizations if you get in. And it's pretty interesting where when you attack a system, it's usually a VPN. It's usually through the web application itself and how it's handling data. The problem is that you typically don't have access that you would otherwise have access to in a normal system, right? And what I mean by that is if I were attacking my laptop, right, I could probably log into it and look around the operating system and understand what's going on, looking at the different directories. You can't do that with a VPN. Typically, you don't have operating system level access normally.
Hmm.
And so the idea is you have this, I think it was some form of an XML attack. It's vacation brain, so don't ask me the exact
Right.
name is, but it's some sort of something to do with the XML and how it reads it. Um, and what I was seeing was a lot of people were just spraying the proof of concept attack, which would cause it to reach out to a not necessarily well, kind of like simulating a C2. So it could be like burp suites C2 type thing.
Hmm.
Um, Now, what's interesting is how it presents itself on a system. Typically, what you would get was you would see these weird XML type stuff in a very like system logs. But the idea is that an attacker, if they were successful and got system level access, you could go in there and erase all the logs. So if you weren't exporting the logs from the system, then you could clean up your kind of your tracks, right?
Hmm.
Like a good attacker would. So kind of a purple teaming perspective of that would be you get access to the appliance, you run your attacks yourself, you play with a POC, and you kind of look at it from a 360-degree standpoint. How else, where could I find this if they remove the logs? Or how could I better understand this, and then not only that, but prevent this from occurring in the future if this is going to be kind of a regular area. And like a regular target of attacks, which that happened to be pretty consistently. I think over the past 3 or 4 years, that specific appliance had a very similar issue.
Mm-hmm. Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah.
so the purple teaming aspect would be, really honing in on this thing and playing with the attack and looking, having access to all the logs in the appliance itself to investigate the attack. So you have a much clearer understanding of the attack versus just reading a blog somewhere and saying, oh, it's always going to do this thing, because it won't.
Well, there you go, Roswell, UK. I hope that answers your question. It certainly made it clear for me. Okay, so again, purple teaming is essentially like the mashup of pen testing with blue teams to iterate and get value. In my opinion, it's really well established, like what a pen testing engagement looks like. And again, chat, don't flame me. Like I understand there can be different types of engagements, but for the most part, it's well defined, right? Roswell UK had another question. Like for purple team engagements, like what's the scope look like? Do you do smaller scopes because you're iterating a lot? Do you do bigger scopes? Like what does it look like from like the project perspective?
Yeah, the enterprise across different organizations, it's always going to be different. It could be larger scale projects, especially stuff that's kind of has like a systemic widespread issue that takes time to resolve. Because sometimes it could be it's just you and maybe the SOC or forensic team working together, or it could be, hey, I'm bringing in all these different engineers and stuff because the problem's all over the place and we really have to kind of mind meld and figure out what the answer is. So it could be big or small. And again, it just depends on the problem and how big of a problem and how many people you need in there.
So you just mentioned SOC and SOC analysts, and you're obviously working directly with those blue teamers on these engagements. Since you're working through like SOC investigation capabilities and like seeing if they catch things versus trying to do what red teams do and see if they can just like not get caught, do you have any stories that you can share about like a SOC analyst or even just like a SOC at large whose capabilities were impacted positively or even transformed through the work of your exercises through a purple team engagement? Did they see the light?
Yeah, I would say a lot of times, yeah, because it's typically done in the form of like a training mindset versus the typical offsec mindset, which is I'm a win. It's
Yeah.
always a zero sum game typically when you have offensive pitted against the defensive. In pretty much everything I approach, even when I do pen test with Tandem, is it's a team sport here. We're not playing the blame game with anyone. We're here to improve the organization as a whole, which means we have to work together to figure things out. And that's how I approach purple team stuff as well, where there should always be a net positive result from the team you're working in. And it could even be a net positive from my end, which is typically the case because I'm bringing these other people in, depending on the problem, with specific expertise, and they can teach me about the environment, teach me about why it's this way and what issues could happen if we fix it. But it's a team sport and everybody should be getting better when you do something, a purple team like engagement.
Is there anything, I feel like, when you've had time in the saddle, there's certain things that you took as, facts or the way early on. And then like through iteration and through experience, you've learned a better way. Like, is there anything about you that you've adapted in your purple team techniques over time that just, it's like one of those, I always say it on my shows, like this is something you'll never read in a textbook because there's the best practice, there's the answer to the quiz question, but then like there's the reality, right? Like yes, you're supposed to do change control on all the things, but like let's be real, like you're going to overwhelm people and give them like they're going to be like what's the word, like apathy for change control. So like in your experience, like what's one of those like you'll never read it in a textbook purple team facts?
Show impact.
Show impact. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's just the general thing you want to do. Like cybersecurity is tough as a leader because if you're not, well, one, it's a cost center. Whether we want to say admit it or not, it's always going to be a cost center. Yes, theoretically, we're saving organizations money in the long run because we're preventing breaches, hopefully, right? And maybe failed audits or compliance or whatever it is, but we're still costing them money. And there's not typically a direct, hey, I did this, I spent $1,000 on this and I saved you $5,000. It's very hard to show a linear comparison there between the two. But, a lot of times, and this is something I've kind of evolved personally over time, is like you have to make a case to leadership. Otherwise, your stuff is always going to be deprioritized and they're not really going to listen. They'll be like, okay, whatever. Why do I care?
Yeah, they're like, no, hey, thanks for coming by, Matt. You're like, it's still Mike. It's still Mike. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you can't, and if you can't speak their language, because it is a different language. When I first started out in pen testing, I would, kind of do my debrief, talk about this thing I thought was so cool, this new attack vector or whatever. They're like, I don't know what you said, but it sounds really cool. I really appreciate your hard work. That's not what you want to hear.
Yeah.
You want to speak their language, help them understand. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter what you do if they don't understand the impact. So speak their language, show impact. That is the best advice I can give you with pretty much anything in cybersecurity, to be honest.
So to that point, James McQuiggan at 35,000 feet follows up with, what KPIs or success metrics do you track to prove the value of purple teaming to these audiences?
Yeah, that's a good point. And I hate being vague, but again, it depends on your organization and what they care about. You're going to have, and this is going to be directly tied to whoever is determining your cyber strategy at your organization. If you're talking about something else that they don't care about, if your KPIs don't tie into their KPIs, it doesn't matter. So you need to, focus and understand what their strategy is, where they're putting their dollars, what they care about, and your KPIs should reflect that directly. Otherwise, you're not going to get any points for your hard work, probably.
How do you sell purple teaming? It's a genuine question. I mean, I feel like pen testing, you've got the insurance requires it, or our board wants an annual or insurance. But in blue, it's like you're completely naked. Like you do need something. Like how do you sell purple?
Yeah, I would say it's mostly for your larger organizations where there's a clear need. There's some issues. Usually, there's some systemic issues. There's some problems with your SOC. Maybe that they're struggling. Maybe they're always not doing so hot when it comes to a red team exercise, or they're missing a lot of stuff in the pen test, or just whatever it is. And that's where you can sell and be like, well, one, we need to show improvement here in terms of the investigation capability. A lot of, I guess it's kind of 50-50 if SOCs are actually measuring success and how they're measuring success of their analysts. And then how they're tracking remediations, how they're tracking the results of any investigation. But that's really what you're selling. Hey, I can make this line look better.
Number goes up, as the crypto bros like to say. Yeah.
Yeah. I can solve your problems.
Do you think purple teaming is for those big businesses only? Or actually, let me change that. Forget about organization size. Do you think purple teaming adds value to immature information security programs? Or is it really only for those programs that are looking to go from like a 3 to a 4 on a scale of 5,
Yeah, that's a great question. And I don't look at it in terms of do they get value, but where will they get more value out of? Is the question in my mind. And that's when I talk to companies and they're and we're talking about maturity, because that's what we're really talking about. Are they mature enough where they're going to get good bang for their buck out of a purple team engagement? Who knows, but they have to be at a place where it makes sense for them. So for instance, not every company needs a pen test every year or 4 times a year. It doesn't make sense. If they don't have a good patch management program, if they don't have an external driver that's forcing them to get it, you're probably better off putting more money into your IT team to handle your patch management, your vulnerabilities, your compliance, your GPO policies, all that kind of stuff. It just depends. And that all comes down to the strategy level. Are we at a place where it does make sense? Or and you don't even have to hire an external, purple team thing to do it. If you have, say, you're outsourcing your SOC or you have internal SOC and you're doing a pen test, you can do a collaborative type pen test just to get your feet wet. Hey, did you see this attack? Did you see this attack? How did it look? Can we put in alerts to detect this? Can we put in something to actually prevent this type of thing? But it's just
It's
that
like Purple Team
conversation.
Light.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually that's a great piece of advice, and one I'm so like stuck in my head. As a GRC person, it's so stuck in my head. They're like, "Oh, this is a red team, so like just red team stuff." Like, yeah, so that's a good tip for everybody listening in the audience. If you are getting pen testing done at your organization, try to like squeeze a little bit of extra value out of there by not just having them deliver the report at the end of the 5 days, but actually having them engage the blue, like basically turn it into a purple team and don't tell anyone it's purple. Just keep saying it's red in pen testing, but get that value from it. We got a bunch of questions in chat, a bunch of chatty Cathys up in here today, which is great. Keep the questions coming. Kyle G says, what are the soft and hard skills that are needed for Purple Team?
Yeah, hard skills. So again, it depends on the type of Purple Team you're talking about. If you're talking about like my style, where I just like to do fun stuff, you need a little bit of both. You need a little bit of the ability to investigate and the ability to do offensive stuff. Because a lot of the problems, especially the way I do it, if you can't understand a POC, if you can't understand the specific attack, you need to go back and do that. And I've had cases where I'm working on a new technique. Like I did a lot of malware development last year, and I was working on building up my Win API skills. So that's basically fundamentally, how do you talk to the Windows operating system, which is how a lot of malware is built. And I found I was missing a lot of C skills because it's all, all C pretty much under the hood when you're talking about API. So I just went back, did a lot of C courses. Then I went back to Win API courses. Then I went back to malware development. But you just go back, keep asking questions. What do I need to know to understand this? Because I believe, and I come from the mindset that anybody can learn anything with enough time in it and with the right strategy. So that's kind of how Purple Team is. Like, figure out what type of Purple Teamer you want to be, and that could be it could just be looking at job listings. There's not a ton, sorry, or just understanding how you want to be, because sometimes it may just not be a job out there for it, but you could work your way into a job at an organization. You can say, hey, I'm gonna start working with the blue team more if you're doing offset stuff. Or if you're on the blue side, you're like, hey, I'm gonna start working with the offensive team more to understand. Because if you talk more with your offensive folks, they love it. They love actually having conversations and you inquiring about how they did something and digging into the weeds to it. They love that stuff. So don't be afraid to. I think there's this distrust, like set of distrust between the different teams, but it doesn't need to be that way. Most people just love having a conversation, so don't be scared to. And once you get your foot in the door, maybe you can work your way into it and just start building on the skills.
Yeah, and I mean, I can, I play a pen tester on TV, but I can tell you, the pen testers I've spoken to that do it professionally, they want you to be better because they don't want to pop the same vulnerability over and over and over again. It's boring for them. So
Yes.
like Mike said, have those conversations because they literally want you to be better so their own job can be more interesting. Great question. Roswell UK brings up a great point since we're talking about blue team here. Like, how do you mentioned zero sum game and who gets to win and this adversarial nature of red versus blue? Like, how do you mentally change the perspective to get blue team from thinking about they always lose and kind of like be more of like, oh, like this is an everybody wins thing, not kumbaya with guitars in a fire pit, but like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's tough because some of it's at a leadership level, right? If the SOC is using the KPIs of how often we caught red team and they're not catching them, and then they're holding people's feet to the fire, that's a problem. Like, you're automatically sowing dissent into your teams, and that's a problem. But if you come up with, maybe you find a different way to measure, like how many fixes or how many gaps were identified during this exercise and actually resolved. That could be a different way to measure it. Or how many collaborative trainings. So like maybe take your offensive team and train them on a new technique. So maybe the red team use something new. I don't know. Maybe trying to think of a new attack out there, but name any new attack. It's just new. There's not a lot of data on how it looks, how it surfaces in security tools. And they give a demonstration, they give training on whatever that happens to be. And that could be a metric. Hey, we're trained up on this. So if it were to happen in real life, we should be in a really good space to actually stop it. And just, I think the more you collaborate in general, right, the more things you do together, the more you're kind of removing those barriers. It just comes down to just talking.
So, Mike, you just tried to pull up a mainstream vulnerability / exploit. You're like, whatever the current one is. And like 5 years ago, you could have been like, Heartbleed or Shell Shock or Log4j or Log4Shell or whatever it was, or proxy login. Like, I'm pivoting slightly. Dude, I love, and take this with a grain of salt, because like love is, I'm using it very, very generously here. I love vulnerabilities that get like a name and a logo, right? I think it's so good for our industry to have like something marketable, so it's easier for the executives and the other people to like hear about it and have it memorable. Like CVE 2025 34789, it doesn't roll off the tongue. People aren't chatting at the water cooler about it. What is your position? And there is a right answer. What is your position on vulnerability logos and like cool names?
Yeah, I can't just have a cool name. It's got to have a great logo. I think it was last year or the year before I went to DEF CON. They had like a pack of stickers for all the different types of vulnerabilities. So I have
Is that right?
Yeah. I have Eternal Blue on the back of my laptop. It's amazing because I was still finding it like 2 years ago in pen test, but it's one of my favorite ones. It has to be like Shell Shock is another favorite one. It was like a turtle of a logo using the same syntax for the exploit. Love this stuff.
Brilliant. Yes. Make 0 days great again. Hey, so let me ask you, threat actors have TTPs, right? I'm sure Mike Small's got some TTPs. Like, I'd like to think that you're pretty versatile, like a Swiss Army knife, but like everybody has a Swiss Army knife. Nobody's using the tweezers or like the tiny knife, right? If you got the big knife, you're going to use that. So like obviously there's certain tools in the Swiss Army knife you use way more often. Where do you tend to gravitate to, and what do you see other purple teamers like? Do purple teamers kind of gravitate towards something, or is it personalized? What is your experience like? And also like dox yourself for IOCs, that way if anyone does a purple team with you, they can catch you on day one.
Yeah. No, it honestly, there's not a ton I stick to. Like if it's something stupid, like simple, I'll use Metasploit. It's just easy.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm trying to like say there's something systemic, like stupid, like Golden SAML or something like that, I'll just use something easy. But if it's me trying to be like sneaky, it's all custom. I just write all custom malware and stuff for it. So, and it just depends on like what I feel like doing. Like it's like, oh, I want to try this new technique, so I'll just write a certain way. So that's just my my preference. I like to learn something new if I do a new engagement, so I just write something new.
That's such a boss move. Like, oh, I just write custom malware, no big deal. Like, like that's awesome,
fun.
Mike. That's cool.
Well, it's more fun that way. I like to learn stuff, so it's usually just some new technique I want to try. But yeah, it just depends. A lot of people still use Cobalt Strike. That's a solid. A lot of people rotate C2 frameworks just to give their SOC a lot of experience with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But really, even with the C2 frameworks, it's like I've been asked, hey, can you just use Cobalt Strike for this thing? I'm like, well, sure, but there's tons of payloads. There's tons of variety. Like, what is it you actually want to see? Is it, hey, you just want to see a very unique version of process injection or what? So it just depends, right? I always try to ask, like, what are you trying to show? What are you trying to do? Because that depends on what effort I'm going to put in, and what type of development I'm going to do. But yeah, I typically, and I'll tell you why I stay away from these frameworks. Because it's easier to subvert detection and stuff. And so I can customize how it presents itself in the security stack. So a lot of times I have access to everything. So I can run it, look at it. Okay, I don't like the way it looks, and then change it, run it again. And it's just constant iteration of, okay, now this is exactly how I want it to look because it's going to stress this particular thing I'm training on or that I'm showcasing. So that's another reason why I typically customize, so I can make it appear how I want it to appear when other
Hmm.
people look at it.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Um, hmm. I mean, and I guess like that really does get back to the whole point of like trying to deliver value. Like literally, I asked you like, how do you make like how do you deliver? How do you sell? And you're like, make sure you're delivering value, delivering impact. And it sounds like what you're saying is you're able to tailor these payloads, for lack of a better term. So like the precision learning, the precision detection is being enabled, or the gap is being identified for these socks. Um, Pretty savvy. I really do like that. Now, do you find that you mentioned earlier making custom malware, which is super cool. I have two questions. The custom malware, number one, like how often, I mean, because a lot of these frameworks do allow you to like tinker and iterate and configure. Like, how often are you making the custom malware versus just, using the capabilities of the post exploitation framework to do, well, I guess you wouldn't even use the post exploitation frame. Like, I guess let me ask you, how often is it that the commercial off the shelf stuff is good enough versus needing to make custom malware?
It could be good enough from day one. So a lot of companies will do with their pen test even is that they'll do an assumed breach approach where they say, here's a payload, run it, but go ahead and allow list it in your security tools so I can go ahead and get execution. I don't do that because I like to have fun,
Yeah.
but you could do that way, right? And it also comes down to what the point of the engagement is. If that's if there's a specific point and you don't have to spend a ton of dev time, go for it, right? You're trying to spend as much time as possible on the thing you actually care about and less time on the stuff you don't actually care about.
Yeah, I mean, there you go. That sounds perfect. I like it. Final question on purple teaming, because there's a bunch of other things that you're amazing at that I want to touch on. Um, what's your biggest challenge in regards to purple team work? Like, what's hard for Mike?
Um, what's hard for me is separating the like strategic level from the tactical level. Like I found myself getting more higher up where I got to do more presentations, I have to do talk more at high level, and I spend less time at the bottom, like developing, doing the stuff I actually love. So that's been hard, like trying to straddle that line between, leadership, tactical, and
I
it's
mean, like,
tough.
yeah. So, I mean, the way I've equated it personally, it's like getting away from the keyboard. I mean, do you find like your skills are getting rusty, or you just don't enjoy the keyboard so much that it sucks that you don't have time, or like what is it about it?
Yeah, I mean, I got into this because I love this stuff. Like when I got in, I took how I got into cybersecurity in general. I was working at Enterprise Rent a Car, and I hated my life. No offense. And I took a web app hacking course, and I finished it in probably like 3 or 4 days. Put in my 2 weeks notice, and never looked back. I love
Damn,
this
dude.
stuff.
Okay.
Yeah,
Converted. I like it. Someone
yeah,
call Tyler
immediately.
Ramsky. Get him in here. Yeah.
Immediately. But yeah, I love this stuff. I love just tinkering with things. And I think you'll find a lot of people just in this industry are of that mindset. I just want to learn. I just want to play. I want to kick the tires on this thing. And that is what I like. But the higher, I guess, not really the higher, but maybe the longer you're in here and the more like leadership focused, you just get away. You just don't have time for it. You spend more time at a higher level and you have to say, all right, I have to let someone else do all this, and then maybe they can tell me about what they did, something cool, so I can still get a little bit of learning going on here.
Yeah. Well, do you find and this is resonating with me a lot. Um, do you find that you're enjoying learning the leadership and the business management? You know what I mean? Like there's other things to learn that aren't 0 days that, because you are a founder, you are you are an executive essentially, right? And like there's things to be learned there. Are you learning in those capacities, or is that just not fulfilling as much?
Yeah, well, it wasn't originally because
Yeah.
I've been just doing pen testing on the side for a while as kind of like a side hustle with my company. And last year we're like, all right, let's make this thing a thing and build. And so now it's been great after I've shifted my mindset where I'm not hacking as much anymore, but I'm hacking business now. And so it's a whole new set of problems, just kind of flipping my mindset. And now it's become interesting because now I'm hacking again, right? Essentially, just in
I
a
love
different
it.
way.
So what is your, I mean, that's a really interesting point. So like, take us through like your mindset, right? So you're talking about hacking business. So you're obviously looking at things through the lens of a hacker, right? Someone who like wants to, I assume, disassemble a process, a tech, a whatever, and then reassemble it in a more optimized way. Take us through what your mindset is when you're looking at a problem or you're looking at one of these business processes, perhaps.
Yeah. So kind of like the big thing that I look at is we take a thing and it's been done the same, like a pen test, right? And it's been done the same way forever. So how can we take this thing and remove all this friction, remove all this frustration, and get the most and help companies get the most bang for their buck? And that's something we've just really started working on now. Just trying to flip the script on that and try to make it a better experience because pen testing traditionally is super frustrating experience where it's probably months of a timeline where you come in there, you're in there for a week or two, whatever it happens to be, and then you have a couple of weeks to write a report. So there's a lot of dwell time there, a lot of frustration from the client. They're just anticipating, like, I don't know how many things they're going to find. I'm kind of scared. Then I got to present this to my board. That's a scary thing. And we're seeing a big trend in pen testing market in general of there's a lot more of a collaborative effort. There's a live kind of feed. It's a lot more truncated experience. But there's ways to do it better still. There's a lot more that we can squeeze out of it, a lot more things we can do to keep shifting it left in terms of company size. How do we keep bringing this to smaller companies? Because realistically, they're the biggest target, and they're just getting slammed. And how can we make a difference there? How can we make a dent in terms of making them more secure? But I just kind of looked at, and we're just focusing on one problem at a time. All right, let's get this. I brought on a couple of new partners into the company to help me with that. Again, I realize I don't have enough time in the world to do everything. So,
Oh my God, welcome to my life.
yeah.
How did you figure? Okay, like again, this is like my therapy session, so forgive me to the 50 people who are here. But for someone who's in the audience who would like to get better at delegating, did you struggle with that, or did you just, oh, I'm just a natural delegator, here you go? And if you did struggle, how did you overcome that?
Yeah, it's different. Like I learned leadership in the military. I was an NCO, so yeah, sure, I learned how to delegate there. But it's kind of weird, right? You're just like, all right, do this thing and I'll watch. In the typical military, but in the infantry, it's all, which is where I was at, where it's always I lead from the front, and that's the type of leadership. You want to be the leader that people are willing to follow. Is the mindset they do. So yes and no, kind of, right? It depends. So as an entrepreneur, it's not like you can just hire everything out, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have a budget. You have a fiscal responsibility. But you start learning to think about it. Can I train this person to do this close? It doesn't have to be as good as me. And you have to just start kind of just prioritizing. Can I do this so much better that it's not worth delegating, or can I delegate it? And yeah, it is tough. It just depends on what it is, how tough it is. So if it's like a pen test, I kind of want to do it. Can I just hop in there and play with you for a little bit so I get my fix?
Move. Like, well, listen, you can bill it. We can say you were the pen tester. Just let me on the keyboard.
Exactly. It's free. It's on the house. I just want to play.
Yeah, exactly. So Mike, in addition to like, running a business, hacking all the things, learning C, pen testing, purple teaming, fixing problems, you also run a podcast, right? So this is the C-Suite Cyber Podcast. You've got 103 episodes on here, so you're obviously not new to this. I see you've got, or 103 videos. It looks like you got some shorts on in here too. What exactly is this, and why should people like who would be the intended audience that could get some value from this?
So we're on a tactical pause right now. Can't explain much more than that, but hopefully it'll start back up again. What this is for, and the idea of the C-Suite Cyber Podcast is we're talking to the C-Suite here is what you need to know about these things in cyber. So like one of the episodes, we have a founder of an MSP, and we just dive into the things they're finding with all their clients, the problems they're running into, kind of the different things going on. We talked about one of ransomware, where we're talking about here's like real life ransomware stuff. Because a lot of times you can break problems down and find trends. And if you just attack those trends instead of just saying, hey, there's this scatter shot of stuff we have to do, that's usually not the case. It's usually a handful of things you can do that are going to have the most leverage. And that's what we try to talk about. We try to make these complex problems, bring it down so the executives can make good decisions with their cybersecurity program.
I love it. So it is on a pause right now. It's been a minute since they did some, but I mean, this is Mike's show. So if you're interested in, hitting the subscribe button, checking it out, I'll link to it. Obviously, when he spins back up, it'll start dropping into your feed. So we'll go ahead and hit that up. Thanks, Mike.
Hopefully soon, everyone. Hopefully soon.
Yeah, I love podcasting. Get to meet cool people like yourself. I do want everyone in chat to know, because I do feel like accountability is important. Mike posted on LinkedIn like probably a year ago something really interesting, and I messaged him. I'm like, Mike, this is awesome. Come on my show and let's talk Purple Team. And he's like, I love everything. Let's go. And I'm like, all right, let's find a time. And then we found a time, and then I was like, oh, there's a conflict. We got to push. And then there was like another conflict, and then pushed. And then I saw him at Simply CyberCon. I'm like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. And then, finally though, I do want to say I appreciate you for sticking with me and dealing with me being like some type of harebrained diva who's like completely all over I'm a yard sale sometimes, Mike. And unfortunately you saw the ugly side of me. Like this Bane shadow thing I got going on right now, you very much got the shadowy side. But you're awesome, Mike. I love it. If you got any questions for Mike, Purple Teaming, podcasting, kicking butt as a cyber pro, drop him in chat. He's going to be with us for a little bit longer, and we're going to crush it. Absolutely. I love it. Mike, let me ask you, what motivates you, dude? Like, you get up, you learn stuff, you crush it, you keep running. What is it that's motivating you?
Well, two things, and this annoys my girlfriend and my family. One, I like to solve problems. Two, I like to do really hard things. So like last year I went on my first time mountaineering. I took off for like 10 days to go climb a mountain and learn how to rock climb.
Did you go for?
It was up in Washington. What was the name? Mount Baker. So I went up to Mount Baker.
Okay.
Yeah. And then earlier this year I did a marathon, my first marathon.
26?
What's that?
You did the full?
Yeah.
Oh my God, this guy. Jesus, so don't trip over your crank, man. Like, wow. Like, I've done a half a couple times, but the 26 is full. Which one did you do?
I did one up near Greenville. I forget what it is, but those guys are crazier than me because they do 7 in a row. So one day after another. I was like, I'm going to just do one day because this is my first time. This will be tough enough. But yeah, I just like doing tough, like just pushing myself is fulfilling to me. So I'm an oddball in that sense.
Wow. So I'm a runner for those in chat who didn't know. And, I only run halves because running a whole like kills you. I just want to show everybody, this is what Mount Baker looks like. Okay. This isn't like going to the jungle gym and climbing to the top of it. This is, dude, is like, you don't just walk up this. Like, what did you do? Like, what was the preparation for this? This is freaking gigantic.
Yeah, a lot of preparation. So a lot of walking with heavy boots on to get your feet broken in. And spoiler alert, your boots cannot be broken in, but your feet can. I learned that.
That's awesome.
Like legitimately, your feet hurt, and it is a matter of just getting your foot used to it. Same with climbing shoes. Your feet getting broken into climbing shoes because we did, I think it was 4 or 5 days of big wall climbing. So like actually like roped in, like climbing. So that was a lot of fun. And then that was actually ice axes, the ice cleats. I forget what the heck they're called now because it's been a minute. But yeah, so it's just that, like learning how not to fall down a mountain.
Learning not to fall down a mountain. So did you summit it? Is that like what you consider the win? Like, how do you win at this?
Yeah, summiting. That's generally how you beat a mountain.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm not trying to be an ignoramus. I know some people get to base camp at Everest and that's considered the win, So
It's like everything, whatever your goals are. So mine was just to do something really hard. I actually didn't go all the way up to the top because I couldn't get the technique down for my cleats. I kept sliding. So it's a 4 hour walk up the mountain, a 3 hour walk down. But you're like stepping and sinking your cleats in and trying not to fall. And for those of you who don't know, when you're summiting these, you're not tied in like you are in traditional rock climbing. You're just tied to other people. So if someone else falls, everyone has to fall with and dig their feet and their axe into the ice to keep everyone from falling off the mountain.
Oh my god. I mean, is everybody like pulling their weight, or do you have like, are you like, God damn it, Carl? Like, can you stop falling down? Like, I mean, are you dealing with one of those people?
You could be. We had so I was the oldest person on that one, so I was the weak link. But no, it was good. It was good.
All right. Well, I'm happy to hear that. I can only imagine how frustrating it'd be. Did you ever read Bill Bryson's A Walk in the Woods?
I haven't read that one.
Oh, yeah, okay. So, are you familiar with it? It's basically Bill Bryson. He's like a really great author, and he writes a book about his experience of hiking the Appalachian Trail.
Mm.
But he calls his buddy to do the hike with him, and the buddy might as well be Zach Galifianakis from The Hangover. Like the guy's like he shows up day one for like a 3,000 mile hike, and he's got like a box of Cheerios, and like he's wearing like Adidas like Sambas.
They have
Just
a movie about this, don't they?
yeah, I think so. I think so.
Yeah, I think I saw the movie. I didn't read
Yeah,
the book.
Well, then I never saw it, but Zach Galifianakis probably would have been ideal to be cast in it. Did I swear? Oh, jeez.
Uh-oh.
I don't know. Chat's telling me I swore. I try not to swear, but maybe I did. Is it when I said crank? I don't know if that's the thing. I don't know. What's your current challenge, dude? Like going in space? Like what are you working on now?
So my next challenge is an adventure race, which consists of about 40 miles total covered. So it's a mix of kayaking, mountain biking, and hiking/trail running. And then next year after that, I'm going to try to do an ultra marathon. I'm going to work up to.
Oh my God. Are you gonna get the tattoo? Are you a tattoo guy?
I'm a weird military guy, 0 tattoos.
Oh, okay. I know. It's not ultras. It's Iron Man. The Iron Man people. There's like a logo that they get tattooed on the back of their calf. It's kind of like a thing.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
No. Just go be miserable for like 30 hours and have a good time.
Okay. Why not? Like, I mean, if it's religious or whatever, you don't have to tell me. But like, it is odd to see a military person without tattoos. Is it just? Are you not a big needles guy, or are you just like, nah, I'm good. It's not interesting.
I've never found anything I wanted to tattoo on my body. I don't know. Thought
That's
about
good.
it, but just never pulled the trigger.
Yeah, you don't want to get some ASCII art, like one of the Metasploit splash pages.
ASCII art would be a pretty solid choice.
Choice, yeah.
Yeah,
So, I mean, obviously, you go to Simply CyberCon. Like we've all established that, even
obviously.
after,
Yeah.
even after I forgot, like some jackass. But listen, where do you like to go to conferences? And if you do, like, which ones do where do you find yourself going? Local, smaller, bigger? Like, what's your kind of jam?
Yeah, so I go to the B-sides here in Charleston pretty much every year. Last year was the first time I went to yours. Was it the first one or second year that y'all had your conference?
So last year was our second year. The first year we only did it virtual, so it was just streamed. And then last year we did it in person, and we're doing it again this year. And for me, we're still getting to know we're still in the courting phase, Mike. But like for me, I like to like level up incrementally, nice and slow, so I never have to go backwards. So I like to move. I like to move like how move fast and break things. I like to move at a medium pace and break things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So. This year will be bigger and it's multiple days and it's at a better location. But yeah, so yeah, local. Yep.
Yeah, and then I usually go to DEF CON just about every year. I got, it's fun hanging out with friends and solving problems. I usually try to do some kind of competition when I'm up there, but usually just hanging out, meeting people.
I love it. So if you didn't know, on August 8th at Las Vegas, right? So I go to Black Hat DEF CON every year, and how like basically Black Hat runs till Thursday, and then DEF CON technically starts Thursday, but like Friday's the first big day.
Right.
So Friday, from like 3 to 8 p.m. I think it is. I did this the last couple of years. I throw like a Simply Cyber party. It's basically
cool.
a corporate event, except I'm not. It's like the opposite of a corporate event. Like I don't I'm not checking that you registered. I'm not sending you follow-up emails. You don't need a wristband. And it's like an open bar party, and it's for the Simply Cyber community. So since you are, whether I don't know if you know it yet or not, but you're a member of the Simply Cyber community. Welcome to the party, Mike.
Hey.
Hey, all right. If you're available and you want to come check it out, I'll give you the details. But it's that Friday. It's always the Friday of DEF CON, from like 3 to 8, 4 to 7 kind of window of time. But you're invited.
Sweet. Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna. I got the details. It's at a brewery. I will say you have to take an Uber to get to it. So like there is a little bit of friction, but it's to prevent like people who are not part of our community from like bum rushing it. You know what I mean?
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah. So, okay, let me ask you, I guess what do you like to do to relax, right? I mean, is somebody Mount Baker relaxing? Is that like what gives you the relax, or how do you like decompress, right? Because burnout is a real thing in our industry, and you obviously work really hard with your on the keyboard and business stuff. So, like, how do you like decompress?
That's a good question. Usually, my long runs, I'll decompress. If I'm super stressed out, I just don't put anything on because usually I'm listening to podcasts or audibles, things like that while I'm running because you're out there for 2 or 3 hours just going. So you
Oh
got to have
yeah,
something to do.
dude, you're
Um,
speaking my language. Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, just running and like I just got off a 10-day vacation, so I try to take like 3 or 4 trips, a couple, most of them small, just over the weekend or go hiking. So I haven't been because the Appalachian Trail pretty much got decimated during the
Hmm.
hurricane season. But I usually go up there and just hike in one direction for 2 days and then come back. That's a good form of decompression for me, just getting away from everything and just being back with nature.
Are you like bushcrafting? Like, do you just like sleep on the floor? Like, or do you like, what do you do? Like, do you have gear?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm not a super ultra light hiker, but I am pretty light. Like I carry all my stuff, and it's only maybe 25 pounds total worth of gear, including like a tent, a sleeping bag, all that stuff. But yeah, carry enough food for a handful of days, and get a water filter, and you're good to go.
I love it. So you're drinking like pond water or whatever, or like river water?
Yeah, they have like all these streams. It's like about every hour you'll pass a stream and you just put it into a bag and you have a filter. It actually tastes better than any water you're getting out of a bottle or a sink.
Oh my
So
God.
it
And
tastes
you've never
great.
had like, the Tennessee trots? Like you've never kind of been like, oh boy, I got a problem.
That's what the filter's for. And, if you don't know and you try to camp and you have a filter, you sleep with it so that it doesn't freeze. As soon as your filter freezes, it's done. You're going to get sick.
Oh, okay. Good to know. Good to know. That I probably drank out of a frozen filter in DayZ, which is like this video game I play that like I hate. I have a love-hate relationship. Um, I don't even want to talk about it. I wish I hadn't brought it up. Listen, back to purple teaming. Rich464 says, when it comes to purple teaming, how do you handle third party risk? Is that even in the scope?
Um, that's a pretty broad question. Third party risk, it just depends, right? Depends on what you're doing. So if you're in engagement where you're actually looking at third party access to the organization, it comes down to looking at what do they have access to? Do we need to prevent them from getting this access? But a lot of times, I mean, you're not really dealing a ton with third party unless you're just talking about vendor capabilities per se, testing products, things like that. It's usually someone else's jobs, but you can get part of that conversation. Typically, like Purple Team has, I like to think of a more holistic view of the organization. So you have a much more broader understanding of how things will impact the various aspects where these other silos may not have that understanding. So it just depends.
Okay, there you go. And third party risk is a tough thing to handle in general, especially like, it's more, to me, it's more GRC than anything, right? It's like a lot of like putting in, policies in place and not just documented policies, but like we won't put this data anywhere else outside this organization, or they'll multi-factor authentication on all the things, or hey, let's not give them star access to our internal network. How about you tell me what servers they need and we do that? James McQuiggan at 35,000 feet wants to know, AI is like dominating everything. Like yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like one of these. I'm trying to be optimistic, but I like my inner monologue is like all doom on AI. How is it impacting the purple side of things?
Yeah, a lot of people are scared of it, scared of its impact on your job, right? The job market itself. I look at it as it's a collaborative thing, just like Purple Team is in general. But you're using AI to work better. To you could like I've done a lot of classes on offensive AI, attacking AI models, and that's been on my list of things I've been doing the last couple of years as well. But yeah, I mean, use it to augment what I do. So I can code way faster now. I don't ever use the code as is. I have to make a lot of modifications, but it
Mm-hmm.
gets me, probably 70% there. And so I can just churn through my work much, much quicker, provide more value. So it's more of a value add to me than anything else. It prevents me from doing stupid stuff I don't want to do.
Anthony, looks like you paired your LinkedIn. Anthony over on LinkedIn says, how do you ensure that you provide value to defenders when it takes so long to develop these exercises?
This Joker here, this is my co-host for the podcast, by the way, everyone.
Oh, well, welcome to the party, Anthony.
um, yeah, I mean, again, it comes down to time management, and investigations do take a really long time. Red team engagements take a really long time to do, especially if you're doing like kind of post activity investigation and stuff. But it comes down to figuring out, how do I get the most bang for my buck? How do I get the most people involved in this that we can? How do we really distribute this knowledge to as many heads as possible out there? Because that's the goal. We want to make as much change as possible, and you can't do that if I'm just teaching you, Gary. That's it. That's it stops there. It doesn't work. We want it broad. We want to distribute the lessons. We want to document the lessons, all those type of things.
There you go. Anthony, you got yourself a great co-host here in Mike. So, Mike, final thoughts. If people want to connect with you, obviously, I had the opportunity to connect with you at Simply CyberCon. Hopefully, we'll see you at DEF CON at the meetup. But like, if people want to follow you and the work you're doing, I don't know if you have a blog or there's some socials that you'd like to connect with people on. Where would you direct people who want some more Mike Small in their life?
Yeah, LinkedIn. I do posting on LinkedIn. I have a YouTube channel. I started putting some content out on, trying to hit on
What's it called?
topics that should just be InfoSec Wizard.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, it came out of a podcast episode where I was like, yeah, everyone wants wizards, people that can just do magic, build stuff.
Are you a Magic the Gathering player, or perhaps a D&D guy?
I used to play Magic. We used to have a meeting here in Charleston with a couple of people, and I just haven't played in years, though.
Oh, well, careful. It's a slippery slope. You
It
get right
is.
back into it and you start scratching. They've just released a Final Fantasy expansion or
Oh,
a Final Fantasy collab. It's very expensive. To save yourself, Mike. To climb Mount Baker again. So this is Mike's. We're gonna get another subscriber right there.
hey.
I can't. I don't know why I'm like zoomed in on like 1,000 here. But yeah, what kind of content are you putting out here? Like, Mike the Wizard.
Yeah, so just breaking down topics like more introductory level stuff, talking about offensive, defensive capabilities, kind of scratching that part of my brain. Probably starting next week, I'll start streaming as well, working through some try hack me stuff to give people a chance to ask questions, and kind of really what I want to convey with that, not just solving the problem, but talking about how I think about the problem as I'm solving the problem. So it's all live, just me talking like I'm looking for this thing, and this is why I'm looking for it, or this is why I would use this technique versus this technique. But because I think that's where there's a lot of missing in the community, where there's not a lot of people talking about why they're doing something
Mm-hmm.
and what's driving that conclusion. So that's what I'm trying to give a little insight.
No, I love that. And, again, I think one of the detriments of our industry is that a lot of content, not me, obviously, like if you watch the first 5 seconds of today's show, but a lot of content creators like really polish up what they're doing so they look super cool because it's like click, click, click.
Mhm.
But in reality, there's a lot of frustrations. There's a lot of dead ends. I mean, if you go watch Tyler Ramsby's work, he's constantly running into obstacles and getting frustrated and failing. He's an excellent one to learn from. So it sounds like Mike, you're not just doing that, but you're also you're showing the frustrations and the opportunities to learn, but you're explaining your thought process as well, so people can benefit from that.
Yeah, I was trying to balance it. So we'll do the live where you get to see all the mistakes, the problem solving, because also that's a good skill to have, problem solving, just being so good at solving problems and not giving up on the answer. But also having some polished one in case people just want the answer and just something to follow. So kind of a mix of the two, choose your own journey type of thing.
I love it. All right, so it looks like a couple people you'll see in chat on your lives. Christopher Ryan Rains has subscribed. I've subscribed. I'm sure some other people on the audience here are also going to subscribe. So I'm looking forward to it. If you want, Mike, let me know when you're going to start your lives. I'd love to let people know about it. I really like you, Mike, and I like your thought processes and how you approach problems. So I know people in the Simply Cyber community would absolutely get value from that. So just keep me posted if you would.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely enjoy your stuff as well. I mean, it's great
Oh,
stuff.
well,
Like,
thank you. Yeah, and dude, I got to tell you, we are a couple minutes over, so thank you for granting me grace. Kimberly is in mod chat yelling at me that we're over time, and that's not fair to you. But guys, I do want to say thank you so very much, Mike, for coming on the show, sharing your experiences, talking purple teaming. Going a little bit above, into like the headiness of like management and time management and decompression. I think it was super valuable. I know chat, right? Simply Cyber community members. I really appreciate you being engaged, asking wonderful questions, really insightful questions, and driving the conversation so we can all get the most value from Mike and Mike's time. Go check out his YouTube channel. I have pinned it on the YouTube chat, so you can just grab it right there, subscribe to it, and then on his lives, you can also say what's up and then drop a hashtag Team SC and let Mike know what's
yeah,
up. I
please
hope to
do.
see you. Hope to see you at DEF CON, man.
Yeah, same. Yeah, hopefully I get to meet some more of your folks. It was great hanging out with them last year at Simply CyberCon.
Hell yeah. Yeah, November 3rd, 2nd and 3rd, Mike, if you want. The training's the 2nd, the 3rd is the actual conference. Simplycybercon.org. Um, for anyone, including Mike, if you want to go get the details on that. There is a CFP if you'd like to speak at this year's conference, Mike, that is available to you. All right, everybody, we're going to boogie out of here. I want to say thank you to Mike. Thank you to all of you. Stay tuned. We'll be doing the show tomorrow at 8 a.m. live, the Daily Cyber Threat Brief. As always, thank you, everyone. And until next time, stay secure.